It is a day for serenity. I know. I'm super excited, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome to the Clutter Corner. For those of you that are just joining us, I'm Angela Brown. I come from the house cleaning background. I've been a professional house cleaner for the last 32 years, and I've helped house cleaners all over the world help other families go through their clutter and decluttering their homes and their closets and their scary rooms and all these things. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is kind of a sidebar to that, because during the pandemic, many of us found ourselves with a little bit of extra time on our hands and stuck at home. I know! We wanted to go out, and yet there we were, facing full on our scary rooms and our closets and our storage units and our attics and our garages and all the stuff that we kind of chuffed in the closet, right? And so the challenge that we have is, as we started uncovering those items, we started uncovering some things in our personal lives that made us feel ashamed, made us feel bad. And we look at our own lives and we say, wow, I'm successful in every other area of my life. And many of the people that we have that are dealing with clutter or hoarding issues for the very first time are very accomplished people. These are musicians and they're creatives. They are artists and they are attorneys and doctors and nurses and people that every day serve other people. School teachers are a big one. So we have lots of people that are out serving other people all day, and then they come home and they're like, oh, I just can't. I just don't have it in me. And they're so tired, and then they don't clean their own house and they don't do for themselves. And then they feel ashamed and they feel embarrassed and they're like, why can't I get my act together, right? So if you're one of those people, you are in the right place today. I'm super excited because we have joining us today a Serenity coach. This is an expert in serenity that's going to help women empower themselves to get from here through those hurdles. And I am super excited to have her here join me today. So I want you guys to ask your questions. I want you to say hi. I'm super excited that you're here. I want to say hi to Priscilla. Priscilla, hi, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I love seeing Fran Thompson. Fran is here to join us. We've got Melanie again. Hi guys, I'm super excited. And I want to welcome today our special guest, which is Denise Belisle. So Denise, welcome to our show today. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today and talk about a topic that is very dear to me, which is, not only decluttering your house, but also decluttering your mind. So we'll get a little bit more in depth with that, but I'm super excited to be here.
Well, when you said decluttering your mind, that caught my attention because right now, and this is a sidebar of my personal life, but right now my husband's parents are in the final stages of my father-in-law. He's with hospice right now, and it's kind of a sad time.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of frustration and anxiety and how do you say, knowing that there's going to be estate issues that have to be dealt with, and there's a whole lot that is on the table right now, and that's causing some angst, and we don't feel lots of serenity right now. So when I heard your topic, I was like, yes, we need this right now. We all need this because we're all at different areas of our lives and can use this. So
Yeah.
tell us, if you will, what is a serenity expert, and how did you get in this field?
Absolutely, yes. Well, I became a Serenity expert by life experience, I guess I could say it this way. I've been doing meditation for over 40 years. I've done lots of self-improvement workshop yearly for about 25 years, a little bit less in the last few years, but for the first 25 years at least of my journey of self-improvement, I've done these self-improvement classes. I've read tons of books on wellness and how to stay young and how not to grow old and how to become more at peace with your inner self and all of that. Like I've done all the course. I've taken lots of seminars and I've had lots of coaches that coaches me towards developing that skill. And at some point I was working with people when I started coaching. I wanted to help people to um, help them move through the stage of when they have cancer and or their degenerative disease, and to help them reverse that, to change their lifestyle, to move in a new direction, for them to know that they can support themselves and heal themselves. And but what I realized, I was hitting a brick wall constantly, because we know that the pharmaceutical industry, the doctor industry, they are very much into when someone is sick, there's like, oh, but my doctor told me I have to do this. I can't do what you recommend. And I was getting that all the time. So I was getting very frustrated that I was hitting that brick wall constantly. So what I've decided is, I was like, okay, you guys don't want my help. So I'll go above that, and I'll go to people that are still healthy, but experience a lot of stress in their life, because I realize over time that stress is a big precursor to illness and disease, and because it kill your immune system, and when your immune system is down, then you get sick, you get different things happening in your life. So that's how I became a serenity expert, because I was going above and beyond, before people get sick, let's work with me and deal with the stress you're dealing with right now, so that moving forward, you won't carry that baggage, and you won't get sick, and you won't develop illness and disease because of the stress you've experienced in the last so many years. So that's how I became a serenity expert. And I'm so excited to, when I'm able to start working with someone, and like I've had an example, for example, a lady, she was in depression. She was waiting to get chemo, radiation. She had a mammectomy and all of that. And she was so stressed out and depressed and in bed. And within 3 months, she chose not to do radiation and chemotherapy. And she moved into a holistic view, and she became vibrant, excited, back to work, made a bunch of great decisions in her mind, decluttering her life, and being able to have an amazing life and be happy forever and ever. So when I have these situations happening to me, just by relieving the stress, you kind of peel out a lot of the dirt that is cluttering your mind, and it allows you to, and at the same time, she did declutter her house, she did kick the kids out of the house, she did a whole bunch of things that allowed her to be whole with herself and be able to move forward in her own life with the decision that she wanted to have, and not be a victim of everybody else's decision.
You just said so many things that I want to unpack. I just love this. And I love the fact that you are bringing up a story of a woman who had illness and she decided to make a change.
Mm.
And I want to know, based on your experience, how easy is it for somebody who's kind of stuck in a rut and they're feeling helpless, or they're feeling overwhelmed, or they're feeling like, I have just been doing this for so long, it's impossible for me to change. How does
Mhm.
someone go from being physically ill with
Yeah.
their immune system weakened and saying, wait a second, I do want to make a change, and I'm going to do this? How
Yeah.
do they do that?
Well, the first step is to make that decision. Because and what I've learned over my years of all the teaching I receive is that change is immediate, but the path you take to get to this resolution, it takes dedication and time. But the change goes in here first. If you make that decision, and if you know why you're making that decision, and if you're firm with why you want to make that decision. Like for her, there was no question. She didn't want to end up being in bed or dying, from repercussion of cancer. And she was at the end of her rope. She was at the bottom, like however you want to call that. And then we talked, and she said, yeah, I want to get better. And it didn't happen overnight, but it happened every day, every week, little increment. And so when people make that decision, when people are seeing that there's a tiny little bit light at the end of the tunnel, where I see that there's a possibility that I can get better, and hang on to that light. And as you move forward, as you make little tiny changes in your life, whether it is through your relationship, if you have toxic people in your life, and that's part of my spring cleaning for the mind, is like, what are the things that are clouding your mind? What are the things that are putting weight on your shoulders? What are you carrying with you daily that drags you down, that is not supportive for you? It could be people, it could be action that you end up doing, like smoking or eating bad food. It could be relationship that you have. It could be bad habit. So once you write down and decide that, okay, these things are detrimental for my health, these things are my mental health as much as physical health, these things are not helping me, they're not supporting me, and I want to make a change. Once you make that decision in here, then it's just a question of having accountability for making the changes that you've decided. And that goes for everything. If you want to reduce your weight, if you want to have a better health, if you want to have better relationship. I always tell people that, people that wanted me to coach them for weight reduction, I always say, reducing your weight start here. It doesn't start with what you put in your mouth. It doesn't start with the amount of exercise you do. You have to have it here. Once it's there, and once you see yourself where you want to be, it's a lot easier.
I love that. And again, so many things I want to unpack.
You can
I
be
have
here
a
for
feeling.
2 hours.
I have a feeling this is going to be a long conversation. We actually only have an hour here today, so we'll go as fast as we can. But you got to come back because I've got a lot of questions. I know that Melanie brought something up, and it was a question I had. She said, "Yes, adios to toxic people," and I know that that's a good place to start for people that are making a decision to change their lives, because a lot of times and this goes back to the cluttering, and as a house cleaner, I know that I worked in people's homes all day, every day, and I was alone in my head. And so if there were toxic people in my life, I don't know why I did this, and I might be alone, but I don't think so. I would replay tapes in my head of like conversations we'd had, and they didn't go very well. And I would replay them again and again, and I would get mad all over again in my head. And now I'm by myself, and that person isn't even around, but I was retoxicating myself with all this negativity by replaying this in my head, like, how dare they say this? And as I played it over again in my head, I'm like, that's not fair. That's not true. And I was enabling those,
I mean, you
illness
say that, it makes me feel sad and hurt, by hearing a story like that. Every time I hear one of those stories, it's just like, oh my goodness, the pain that a person like that is inflicting on themselves, right? It's
Well,
just
and
like
that's the thing.
inflicting-
That's the thing. I was doing it to myself because the person was now gone. They weren't
They
part
don't
of
care.
today's conversation.
care.
They'd moved on with their life, and here I
know.
am rehashing it over and over in my head, right? How
Yeah.
unhealthy is that?
Yeah.
And so share with us a little bit about how we have these thoughts in our head and how that turns into the negativity that then manifests itself in our physical illness that then shows up as old age or aches and pains and all this other stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I can talk at length about that. So stop me whenever you think you've heard enough. Because I have a perfect tool here, and it's my cup. And my cup says, I know it's backward, but it says it's all good. And that's something I say all the time. Because whether something happened, like you just explained, something happened years ago, a few days ago, a few years ago, decades ago, and as we move forward, we try to rehash that situation. We try to use that situation. Oh damn, I should have said that. I should have told him that. I can't believe that he or she did that or said that or that happened. How dare them to, they or whomever, to do that. And then exactly the same situation. But in reality, trust me, I've tried. You cannot change the past. So if anybody that is listening right now have ever been able to change something that had happened in the past, please let me know how you've done that, because we can't. So what we can't, we can't change the past.
It's interesting that you bring that up, because as I was working through some of these issues in my head, I asked myself some questions that were really painful. And my question was, are you feeling better because you rehashed this in your head? And I'm like, no, I actually felt worse. Okay, why are you doing it? Because you know better. Like, why do you keep doing this? And then I was like, well, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm going to get even in my head. Like, if, is that going to fix anything? It's not. And then I was like, well, if I'm not going to be able to fix anything in my head, and it's not going to make anything better by rehashing it in my head, what could I be doing instead? And what I decided inside, and it was a podcast that I listened to, where when you said you read all these self-help books and tapes and stuff, I am also a firm believer in positivity. And as I started listening to stuff that was more positive, somebody on a podcast said that you are the sum of the top 5 people that you hang out with. But I was hanging out with myself, but I was bringing these other people, toxic people, into my space. So I realized, in a weird, twisted sort of way, I was entertaining 5 other people that were really negative and hateful in my life, and I was spending the most amount of time with those people. And then I thought, wow, that's really unhealthy. Angela, why are you doing this? Please stop. And so then I decided that whenever I started thinking about these people, that I, instead of being like angry and bitter and like, I'm going to show you kind of a thing, that I would instead send peace to them. Like, wait a second, I forgive you, I'm moving on. But then I was like, I didn't even know what forgiveness was. So, and I didn't like, I hear about forgiveness, but what is that? What does that look like? And I didn't have a way to forgive. I didn't really know what that looked like. So I was like, well, it's kind of like me giving them a hug. And then I'm like, oh, heck no.
So gross.
And then I thought, wait a second, what if I'm cleaning by myself all day? Like, no one can see me. I'm kind of like by myself. What if I imagined these hateful people that have caused me so much angst? What if I imagined actually giving them a genuine hug? Like, I really mean this from my heart. And how does that look and how does that feel? And it was really weird because, like, my first several reactions to trying that out was a really visceral, no way kind of a thing. Like, I'll show you. Yeah. But the more I focused on it, and I would find myself like in the middle, you know how when you wake up in the morning and you're not quite awake, and there's this kind of in-between moment of, I'm asleep and I want to go back to sleep, but I'm kind of awake. I would just spend that moment or two before I got up in the day and I got distracted. Like, let me just focus on this one person for a minute, and let me just imagine giving them a really big hug and kind of setting the tone for my day, so that as I start my day, I'm not starting it by fixing breakfast and then thinking about all this hate and whatever that is coming through for me, but really focus on, today I'm going to embrace this person and I'm going to send them compassion and kindness. And I don't know why we have the angst we do. And I don't really even need to know. I don't need to resolve it. I just need to get to a place in my heart where I can hug this person. Just, it's like a fake hug, like a virtual hug.
Yeah, of course.
But do this in an authentic way and with sincerity. Yeah. And what's really interesting is I changed. Yeah, so they didn't change, because like we've stayed in touch, but they're still miserable, mean, hateful people towards me.
Yeah.
But I've changed.
Your attitude towards the situation have changed.
Yeah.
You remove the filter of hate and you replace them with filter of love. And that changed completely the way you feel.
Yes.
Right?
And what's really weird is I've noticed that I'm at a better place when I see them, because they're relatives, so I can't not see them. Yeah. But I don't want them in my life because they are so negative and so miserable and whatever. But what I've noticed is when we are together, for me it's different. And I know in the beginning it was just kind of like, but now it's not that way anymore. And
but you don't get as triggered as you.
I'm not triggered, right? No.
And that's the thing, is you learn to distance yourself, from action reaction. That I love doing that. It's like, like you think of something and then you explode. Your brain goes all over the place. Or if you're faced to them, you verbally, express your feeling. But as you become more conscious and you make different choices, you distance yourself from that explosion. And when, and then you're like, I love you. And you walk away, right? It's like, I don't care. You're not affecting me anymore.
Here's the really weird part. I remember telling them one time that I did love them, and they got really upset. Like, how dare you? We don't say those words in our family or whatever. And I said, you know what? And I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I said, if the worst thing that happens is that someone tells you they love you, you're still going to be okay. You know what I mean? Not the end of the world if someone loves you. You're going to be okay. And it was not to pick a fight or whatever. It was not to disagree with them, but to really set the tone, because I knew for myself, and it was literally affecting my health. When you talk about the woman that had cancer and she chose to be different, it's a really tough conscious choice. And I know because I have been there.
Yeah.
But the conscious choice is where you say, wait a second, I cannot do all things, but there are some things I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me, it was a conscious change. Tell me, what is your experience about people who are struggling with wanting to change but don't know how?
Mm-hmm. Well, they hire me.
And how does that work? What happens when someone hires you?
What I found is, as I mentioned earlier, but the first step is making that decision and being aware of what is it that is bugging us. Like how is, like you did your own introspection in your story. You talk about, okay, like how is that affecting me? Do I want to feel like that when I think about these people? So when you become more aware of, like, I have a test that's called the saboteur assessment, and when people are doing this test, they have a list of who are their top saboteurs. For example, some people might have the victim as the top saboteur. Somebody else might be a controller. Somebody else might be an hyperachiever. And when you recognize, and that test is fairly accurate, so whomever so far that have done it and talked to me about it, about the result, or I coach them through the result, they say, I can't believe that this is me. This is this is me. Look at this, like I'm such a victim. Every time something happened to me, yeah, look at that. There's never a good parking spot here. Or, why does it always happen to me? Look at this. It's raining outside. We were supposed to have a picnic, but look at that. Like, they always, like, everything happened to them. So, but when I work with people, once they recognize these voices in their mind, which are those saboteurs, then recognition is first. Like, hey, I guess that's my saboteur talking. That's not me. It's that little voice that telling me, like, I'm poor little me. But in reality, everybody else is in that situation. It's waiting for everyone today. It's not just me, right? So then we work through recognizing that these voices are not attached to you, and they might have been there in the past to protect you, because they often come as a child to protect you, to make you feel that, okay, you're going to be safe, yeah, you're right to be sad because you've been abused, or who knows what, right? But as we grow as adults, we often carry them like our favorite little doll, right? We never want to recycle. But once you start to recognize them, what I do is I teach people to build a force field in front of them. So when the saboteur comes to talk to them, they go, yeah, I know you're behind that, but I can't hear you. Sorry, I'm not open to discussion here. I'm going in that direction. So that force field, of course, sometimes we're weaker, and then they can enter our bubble. And then we say, hey, what are you doing here? I don't want to deal with you right now. So, like, you can't quiet yourself down. I know you're there. You were good at some point, but I don't need you anymore. So as you get to recognize your behaviors, and you say, I don't really want to do that, like you, right? Like, I'm tired of being upset with these people. I'm tired to live that negativity in my mind. I want to change. And then you took this step. That didn't happen overnight, did it? Right? You take some
No,
steps
but
slowly.
what I did go cold turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I
Mm-hmm.
realized, and this was a really interesting observation for me, because I discovered that, and I'm from a large family. I'm the fourth oldest of 19 kids. And so I
Crazy mom.
discovered, I know my mom and dad are amazing people. They're both still alive and with us, and
Wow.
God bless them. They're amazing people and great grandparents and everything. They're fantastic people. But in my home growing up, there was a lot of chaos.
Of
And it
course.
wasn't bad chaos. It's just when you have that many people under one roof, there's a lot of stuff happening. And so it's things like, oh no, someone is popping popcorn and they don't have a popcorn popper lid on the popper. It's just now popping all over the kitchen. Like, somebody help. And so then I would, like, rush in there to try to help. Oh no, somebody just spilt a gallon of milk. And you're like, oh no. And you go and you rush to clean it up. And someone has a piano lesson. Can someone take them to piano? And someone has a pack meeting for scouts.
My goodness. I
And
can't
so this
imagine.
was my norm, right? I was the fourth to the oldest, and I was caught up in all these little things happening all the time, and it was chaotic. And in a pleasant sort of way, they were all manageable, but I got really good at juggling all of these
Yeah.
balls.
Yeah.
So then when I moved away from home, it was just me. I didn't have all the chaos and all the stuff, and I didn't realize that was my norm. And so what I started doing is I would find relationships that were really chaotic, that had all these broken
fix.
parts to them. And then I was like, hey, I know what to do, right? I can juggle all these balls and I can fix whatever's going on here. And that was my norm and that was my comfort zone.
You were a fixer.
Yeah, and I didn't know that. So I woke up one day and I'm like, wait a second, something's wrong. Because I've been in a series of bad relationships, and they're all with like substance abusers, and they're all very charismatic, and it's like getting in a car accident every day. There's all this stuff happening every day. And I was like, there's one common denominator, and it's me. Why am I attracting that into my life? Because I don't drink and I'm not a substance abuser and I don't do drugs and alcohol and I'm so stressed out and I'm full of anxiety. But why? I'm the common denominator. And I stopped and I realized, wait a second, I think I'm a drama addict.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if they have like Drama Anonymous or whatever. But I was thinking if there's a 12-step program or something for Drama Anonymous, I should go because I think I need my daily fix.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what does it look like if I lived a life where there was no daily fix? And then I'm like, oh man, that would be so boring. And I started laughing. I'm like, am I willing to live a boring life? And I was like, I guess I could give it a try. Right? I've never done this before, but what if I did? And I had been through a series of relationships, like 10 years. I dated like 10 years of nerds. I say nerds, they were nice people, and they weren't computer nerds, they were just nerds, and then I'm like, well, that didn't work out. And we'd go on one date, and then they'd say, let's do this again. I'm like, really, let's not. It was really awful. But I got to the point where I was like,
you went to the pendulum, right? Like you went to the extreme from Mr. Bad Guy, attractive bad guy to the nerd guy.
Well, you talked about the creating a bubble around you.
Yeah.
And for me, it was a shark-proof cage. I'd been to an aquarium where I saw this shark-proof cage that was, they drop them in the bottom of the ocean, and a photographer will go in there and they will take pictures of sharks and the shark can't get to them. And so I used that as my mantra. And so for 1 year, the year was 1994. And I said, okay, for 1 year, and I'm going to see if I can do this. For 1 year, I'm not going to have any drama and I'm not going to have any anger in my life. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to be really conscientious of this every day for 1 year.
Yeah.
I went cold turkey. And what was really interesting during that year is because every time like my phone would ring and I'd have the caller ID on my phone and I'm like, it's a drama addict, And it was another person that would trigger my drama.
Yeah.
That I would say shark-proof. Okay, take a deep breath,
great.
Stop, take a deep breath. Okay, now you're going to hear the conversation and you're not going to agree or disagree. You're just going to be neutral in this conversation. All right, get ready, get set, go. And then I would answer the phone. And it was interesting because within a matter of about 3 months, I lost all my friends. I lost them all. All my drama friends went away. They were like, you're not fun anymore.
Yeah, we can't play with you anymore, You changed the rules on us.
I did. And it was a conscious thing.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was the hot buttons, the triggers that used to really get me fired up, stopped working. I mean, they still worked on the inside. I was just like, ooh, and then I was just like, don't let this show.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that I started attracting, forgive me, this is going to sound really boring, but really boring people into my life. And I started finding some really, really nice people that were just really nice and really boring.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow, these are really cool people. And they're super boring. And that's okay.
Yeah. I don't need to fix them,
I don't. And it was really weird because I thought I was looking for a relationship. And for 10 years, nothing worked out. And when I met the man that I married, he's like the most boring person ever. He's so boring. And he's the nicest person I've ever met. And I'm like, is that okay? I mean, like, is something wrong with me that I'm now okay with being around boring people? And I got to tell you, we just celebrated 21 years of being married. And he's still my best friend to this
He's still
day.
boring.
And he's still boring. Yeah, he's still boring. But how refreshing is it to wake up every day and know that my world is not going to collapse today?
Yeah, and it's stable and it's nice and it's no drama, and
Yeah.
what I heard, he loves you and he cares for you. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, I like boring.
Boring is good. It's so good. And how do you, like, let's say that you have not made a commitment to the boring life. I mean, I'm not trying to recruit people to the boring life, but oh my gosh, it's so much better. It
Yeah,
saves me so
yeah,
much. I mean,
yeah.
I think it was Melanie in here. I'm reading the notes. Somebody said that being stressed out with the stress and toxicity, it has to do with disease and don't know how to stop being stressed. And Priscilla said, toxic people make it hard to think about the next steps. It's exhausting. Melanie said, replaying all those toxic events will elevate your cortisol and again impact your health negatively. There are a
Hmm.
bunch of comments that are coming in right now, and thank you guys so
Yeah,
much for the comments. But that's what I was feeling in my life,
yeah,
and it was making me second guess myself. And I started thinking, am I not worthy of a good relationship? Like,
hmm
what's wrong with
hmm
me?
hmm
And when I realized I did have the choice to make a difference, but it was going to
yeah,
start with me. I mean, I
yeah,
was the common denominator. I can't change anyone else, but I can change myself.
yeah,
And as I started changing myself, you know, boring is good.
yeah, yeah. Especially coming from a family of 19 where you can't help it for it being chaotic. Because I mean, you have three kids and it gets chaotic. Imagine 19, everybody has their own little drama. At least out of 19 every day, there's at least five that has drama, right?
Oh, five at any given time.
I know, that's what I mean, right? Like there's always
Yeah.
five. Like you resolve a drama, but then this one has a drama. I can't even imagine being with 19 kids. We'll have to talk about that one other day. But I love what you're saying because you made that decision. When I said earlier that a decision is changes is immediate, like making that decision, you decide to walk that path of no more, right? You made that decision. And as you said, it took 3 months to really clear up your life, right? But every day you would pick up the phone and say, oh, here comes drama. Okay. Um, Prepare yourself, put your force field on, say, okay, force on, we have an attack coming on, put up the shield.
It's coming.
Yeah, put up the shield. Okay, I'm ready. The shield's strong. And I'm sure at the beginning you might have still got triggered a little bit, but then you were aware that you were being triggered. And you was like, no, I'm not reacting. I'm not reacting. I'm staying at peace. I don't want to play that game. And then it took a while, I'm sure. But then that decision, that firmness of, I don't want to play that game anymore. I mean, it was the change. That's what the trigger. That's what changed your life, and that's what I'm hoping for the people I work with, and I'm hoping for everyone. Once you become aware of where you are and that you basically hate your life because it's not fun to be there. It's not fun to feel that drama all the time. It's not fun to be stressed out. It's not fun to be sad. It's not fun, right? And what I often say is like I want people, like I work with people 50 and over, and I want them to rock the second half of their life. I want them to thrive. I want them to shift from the crisis to the oasis, right? It's like there's light at the end of the tunnel. You can find something amazing. And and that's why I'm excited when I work with my clients because I see that transformation. And if they have a hard time making that hard decision, I keep them accountable and I put them in line. It's okay, let what worked last week and what didn't work, and if it didn't work, like what happened, so what thought were you having, like all these things, right? Like revisit the things that don't work and see how we can tweak it. There's decision there that was not quite firm, so reaffirm your decision and move forward. And how can you deal with that situation when that happened? How can you raise your force field whenever you know that's going to come? Maybe they caught you off guard, right? You weren't prepared for that situation. So how can you be prepared next time? So these are all the things that I helping people realizing and making changes because it's so, so important. No one should live with stress in their life. And then I'm hearing people listening say, yeah, sure, easy to say, but it's possible because what happened is that as you get, like right now, our threshold for the majority of people, for example, our threshold are here. So whenever bad situation happen, it's like, wow, it's crazy. But as you learn, and you'll agree with me, I'm pretty sure your threshold right now is right here. So what happened here doesn't affect you, right? Because you raise your threshold, you build a resilience towards how you react to certain situations. So as you become more serene and as you build that peace, your resilience level is much higher. So whatever happened here now, what used to be here, now it's there. So it's like, yeah, I can deal with that now. Of course, there's moment that is hard and I'm like, oh wow, damn. But then it goes down really quickly because you catch yourself and you say, okay, I know this situation is shitty right now. That's horrible. But you don't stay there for days and years. You stay there for a couple of minutes. And then guess what? It's all good. And you tell yourself, okay, there's something good in that situation. What can I learn from that? How can I fix it? You become curious as opposed to dwell in, because when something happened, it's already in the past because you can't change it. So now you move forward. How can I deal with that in a positive way that it will become below my threshold? And that's how people can change and become more serene. You don't have less stress. The stress is not less. What's coming towards you, there's still the same life that you're living, but because your threshold is higher, it doesn't affect you as much.
Well, tell me a little bit about how people that are, and I know many of the people that we're having this conversation with right now are here because we're starting to have honest conversations with ourselves. It started with our stuff, and if we just get rid of stuff and we haven't had the conversations with ourselves about why we brought extra stuff into our life and we've been hoarding it or collecting it or have unresolved issues with our stuff. If we haven't resolved those issues, then when we get rid of stuff and we do donation Saturday, what happens is it all comes right back. We end up filling that void in our lives with more stuff and we're right back where we started. And we see it over and over and over again, this pattern repeating itself with people getting rid of stuff and they're like, yay, my house is cleared up. And then within days or weeks, they're right back exactly where they were. And so what is the connection between the stress and the anxiety and the not having cleared that up with the stuff that's in our lives, and how not making the commitment to make a change up here first is affecting all the other physical belongings that we're keeping in our homes?
The actual belonging, the actual stuff. Yeah. I think what happened is that people get um, emotional attachment to stuff. They're like, I've was working for a lady a few years back, and she was a hoarder. And for her, it was, and I'm sure you've met many hoarders, and it's sort of a comfort zone. It's sort of a security that I might need that later. And that's, once you deal with the understanding that you might not need it later, and if you were to need that information, what is the way that you can preserve that? A lot of time it's paper and magazine. You must have seen that, like piles of newspaper or magazine clipping or whatever the thing is, or old magazines from like National Geographic that you didn't even read the whole thing, and then you say, oh, but I'm going to get to that article later, and 5 years later it's still on the table packed up below all the other one. And so when you're stuck in that, you have to do like a Marie Kondo type of thing, right? Like, does that really bring me security? Does that really bring me joy? Do I need that in my life? And be honest with yourself. And what's the attachment that I have with these things? I used to move every year or 2 years for a long part of my life, up until 20 years ago. And trust me, I had distance myself from a lot of stuff, because when you move, you're always like, I can't move that, like it.
Well, you have to make those tough decisions.
Yeah, you
Is
do.
what I have right now going to fit in a smaller space, or fit in a different
exactly.
space, or whatever? And then you have to make decisions about furniture and things. And
Because it's harder to accumulate things. But now I've been where I am for 17 years, and I'm planning to make a change. actually moving from a 2-bedroom to an RVs, and I want to
Oh,
go
wow.
traveling. So imagine all the stuff I have to get rid of. So now, because I've accumulated so much stuff, and I'm like, I don't need all of that, right? I have, those Pyrex container to bake something. I think I have 6 of them. What am I doing with 6 of those things?
Well,
Yeah,
you
they're
just said
different.
something really important, and I want to
Yeah,
hang
yeah.
on to it for a
Please,
second
please,
before it
please.
slips away. Excuse me. But you just said you were thinking of moving from a 2 bedroom to an RV. So in the back of your mind, you know what the next step is. Even if it hasn't manifested itself yet, you know what it is. So the questions you're having with yourself are, is this something I'm going to take into an RV? And I'm
Uh-huh.
playing the same game right now on my end. We've talked about downsizing from a
Yeah.
6,000 square foot house to something half that size.
Did you
And
have the
so,
19 sibling in your 6,000?
no, 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 this is just me and my husband now. We're empty nested and it's just us. But I'm now thinking about downsizing.
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
we went and we found a place we like. Now it's in a new development and they haven't broken ground on it. And we have not bought the house or anything.
yeah,
But we went through a model home and we said, if this was our house,
yeah,
what would we get rid of right now that we would not bring with us?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
started saying, well, that's an interesting game to play because I don't think I would take this whole living room set of furniture because it's
Mm-hmm.
not going to fit in that house.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, and like you said about the Pyrex pans, I was cooking something the other day and I said, this is a really nice cooking set. And if I moved into a
I
house like
want to
that,
take it.
I would take this. This I would keep. I want this. And like this morning when I made my smoothies, I said, would I take this Vitamix blender?
Yeah.
And I've used it every day for like 10 years. And I use it for like two meals a day. I was like, yes,
I know,
this
me too.
would go. But as I'm getting rid of stuff, it's like I'm good letting that go. I
Yeah,
don't need that. I don't use
yeah,
it much, and I wouldn't take it to the new house because in my mind, even though we haven't purchased the new house, and like you
yeah,
said, you haven't
yeah,
done the RV yet,
yeah,
in my mind, I'm getting ready for that next step.
yeah, absolutely.
And so as I'm envisioning it, I'm like, nah, I don't need this. I can let this go.
Yeah. And I think visualization, like, it goes again back to step one, decide what you want. And that's for you, you're going to downsize. For me, I'm definitely downsizing to an RV and a few box container in the RVs, right? Carrying, a bit of winter clothes. I never want to see snow again, but I might. So I need a bit of winter clothes and stuff. But once you make that decision, I see myself almost like at least 3, 4, 5 times a week. I'm visualizing myself, if it's not every day, but I'm visualizing myself. How would I live when I'm in that RVs? What would be my lifestyle? What would I bring? Definitely the Vitamix. Where would I bring with me? And I'll have a water filter integrated into the RVs because wherever you find yourself, you have to have good water to drink. And I drink lots of water. And, how would okay, I don't want a real toilet. I want a compostable toilet because it used too much water to flush. Right? Like all these things, I'm seeing it. I know how that's going to look like. I know where the bed's going to be. I know where I'm going to put my storage. I know, what I'm going to bring and where do I put my books? Where do I put my computer? I'm going to have a satellite. Like I see all of that. But it's the same thing for everything. For us, it's downsizing. But if you're unhappy with your relationship and you know that, like you made changes about the people you're dating, see yourself, live it, experience it, like visualize it, but viscerally, right? Like with your heart and your soul, and say, that's going to feel like that. And that's what I want to create in my life. Because visualizing is one thing. You visualize and you do a mind map and you put that on a board, a vision map, and then you look at the image. It's pretty. But if you don't see yourself in there, if you don't put your pictures in your vision board, it's not going to work. You have to put yourself, who am I going to be once I'm there? What kind of lifestyle am I going to have? What are the steps I'm going to take to get there? And who's that Denise that's going to live in that RV? I see myself in that RV, right? So I'm no doubt that it's going to happen. I have no doubt it's in a year, that my deadline is in a year. But I have no doubt it's going to happen, right? I have to sell my condo. I have to get rid of all my belonging. I have to do a lot of stuff in the next year. But I know it's going to happen, So there's
Well,
a
and you
cycle
just
for
brought up
everyone.
something really interesting where you said you have to visualize yourself in that situation. And I know that since we picked out a house in the back of our minds, life will be different when. So I was asking my husband the other day, I said, what is going to be different in a new house that is not true now?
Hmm.
And he said, oh, I'm going to have so much more free time. And I was like, no, you're not.
Yeah, that's not the thing,
That's not going to happen. But what do you imagine? Because when you look at a new house, one of the tendencies, and I think this is where realtors are able to sell homes, is they sell you a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And you look at like a little breakfast nook area and you're like, oh,
Hmm.
it would
Oh,
wouldn't it
that'll
be
be so
so
fun
great?
to have our breakfast there,
Our breakfast there, watching the sun come up in the morning, and I'm thinking, we don't have breakfast together now. He rushes in the morning, he's racing to take a shower, he's racing off to work. I've already been up for 5 hours before he wakes up in the morning. There's no breakfast together. Like that's a sham, okay? This pretend lifestyle, the realtor is like, oh, wouldn't this be so great? It would be so great, but that's not us.
Yeah,
That's not
yeah,
our
yeah.
lives. But what if it was?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I said to myself, to my husband, if that's what you have envisioned for the new house, what we need to do right now,
Is to start it now.
we need to have breakfast together every day, sitting there watching the sunrise every day right now. So
Yeah,
here's what I'm prepared to do. I said, I'm prepared to change my morning routine so
yeah.
that I can get you up an hour before you normally get up so that we can go walking and get some exercise. Then
Hmm.
when we get back, I will make you breakfast and we will sit there and we will watch the sun come up. And then you get ready and you can race off and go to work. And he's like, why would we do that? And I said, because that's your vision. That's what you wanted
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
in a new home.
I love
And
that.
he said, and we can do that now. And I said, there's no one
Why not?
stopping us.
Yeah, why not?
Let's
And
do that.
yeah, what will change in a year or two when we want to have that house? I mean, if we don't change our lifestyle now, if we don't walk the path toward creating what we want to create now, what's going
We'll
to
just
change,
end up
right?
with a new house, but we'll be living
Yeah,
the same life. Yeah.
yeah.
So we've been doing this now for a week. This
Oh,
is
good
new
for
for us. We've been
you.
doing it for a week, but
Good for
every
you.
morning, and he does not get out of bed in the morning. Okay. He does the snooze 10 times or whatever. He's that guy. And so I ran in to wake him up this morning, and he's like, already up making the bed. And I'm like, whoa, you're already up making the bed. He's like, well, we got to go walking. I got to get up for my breakfast. And I was like,
That's so
look
exciting.
at you go. And so then was like giving him a fist bump, like, yay, look at you getting up before the alarm. He's like, I didn't even need an alarm this morning. I just popped out of bed like toast. I was all ready to go. I was like, yay. So
That's
it's
great. That's great.
creating those new habits, but doing it right now, not
Yeah,
waiting for a different time.
yeah,
We're going to
yeah,
start living that way right now because
yeah.
there's nobody stopping us except us.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's what I've started to do too. Like, I'm single and I have a cat. But since I started to talk about, to some people, and it took me a while to tell everyone that's what I wanted to do. But starting December, I took on a roommate because I was like, okay, I have to get out of my bedroom anyway. So I gave him my large bedroom, and my bed is right there. I live in my office, and I downsize. So already the space that I spend most of my time in is here. I often just come and bring my lunch here, whatever, right? And I eat. I read in my bed. And that's what it's going to look like in an RV, right? Like downsizing, and got rid of a lot of clothes, a lot of paper. I think I throw away, like in the recycle bin, about 120 to 150 pounds of paper, right? Accumulation
We've
of,
had
yeah.
a request as you're telling us your successes here and how you've downsized. We've had a request for the Happy Bell. This is my Happy Bell.
Oh,
It's my sugar-free dopamine high. And so every time someone does something successful, like downsize their stuff, they get the Happy Bell. So woohoo!
oh, thank
This is the
you.
Happy Bell for you. And
Thank you so much,
thank
Nutella
you
Tart.
guys for requesting that. Yes, she's earned many Happy Bells. This is a happy time.
So thank you. I appreciate that. So you have to make those decisions. And not only I downsize into my bedroom, my office, I also get an extra income that will help me moving forward into those decisions that I'm making, and, to save more money. I'm going to sell my place. I'm going to make money when I sell my place, but it's a little bit extra income, and it support me into having to pay for a few extra things. I have to fix the house because, when you sell, you want to make it a bit better than it is now. And so I'm using that money to upgrade different things. So all that is one step. It's not huge thing every day. It's like every day, little things. Like next week, I'm taking the week off, and then it's fixing patio. I have a 400 square feet patio that I want to make the best patio this summer, so I can take lots of pictures. So when people see that, I say, oh, I want to live on that patio, like the realtor do, right? So they
Uh-huh.
see themselves going after a little coffee in the morning, on when the sun is rising. Yeah, they can do that on my patio, right? So
I love how it started up here in your head
yeah,
first, and how then you visualized it,
yeah,
and then how you decided this is what I'm going to do. It's going to be
yeah,
an RV, and then you told your friends, and then you went ahead and you set a date, and then
yeah.
starting in December, you started making steps towards that,
Mm-hmm.
because we can talk all we want. And I
Yeah,
think there are a lot of people that, because of, and I'm not pointing any fingers, but you'll recognize if this is you, anybody that's here joining us today. But there are people that will say, I'm going to do this when.
mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to get more time, and then I'm going to do this. And when I get to the new house, then I'm going to start living, and I'm going to start downsizing. And then one day I'm going to do such and such. And it's a lot of talk and not a lot of action.
Yeah,
And I love the fact that you went one step further than that. And it was actually lots of step furthers, but it was one step. And then
mm-hmm.
when you made one step, you started doing other things one step in a whole bunch of different directions
Yeah,
that started reshaping the whole aspect of your life, to where this is becoming more and more of a reality
yeah,
every single day for you,
yeah, yeah,
because you've already said goodbye to your home. You've already brought in someone new that is
yeah,
replacing the energy and the space in your home.
yeah, yeah,
You've already figured out, like, I'm taking a week off, which is fantastic that you're taking time off, and you've dedicated time in there to fix up the property, the patio,
yeah,
so that you can then create that illusion of you sitting on my patio eating breakfast as the sun comes up. Right?
yeah,
You've already started making all of that a reality.
yeah.
And so what are the odds that that's going to happen? I have no doubt 100% that's going to
I know.
happen, right?
Absolutely, you're right.
You've
You know?
already shifted the alignment of the universe to try to
Yeah,
make that your reality.
yeah.
And
There's no doubt in my mind.
well, I think that's a really important key, because instead of feeling depressed and discouraged and overwhelmed, and I have no idea where to start and I don't know what to do, you made one step, and then you made another step, and then another step, and another one, and
Yeah,
you started building on top of it. And like you said, it's not completely done yet, nor will it be for a year. You gave
mm-hmm,
yourself an
mm-hmm.
entire year of grace to figure out the details and to make that a
Yeah,
reality.
yeah,
But every day you're so much closer, because you're now moving in that direction, and
yeah.
everything, like you told all your friends, and now you're telling us. And so I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to say, hey, how's the move coming?
So
Right?
where are you located?
So we're in Charlotte, North Carolina.
All right. So I'll see you in Charlotte, Carolina in the winter of 2025.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, please come visit me. That would be awesome. That would be so
Because
cool.
I'll be traveling that winter, right? Because next winter, 2024, it's going to be selling and then
Uh-huh.
downsizing even more. And then through the
Nice.
summer, I'll stay up north. And in the winter, I'm planning to go down south. So,
Nice. Okay, awesome. Yes. I invite you. Come on over. We would love to have you.
and
But
if
but
you
this
still
is
have your 6,000 square feet, I'm sure you have a big driveway that I can park my RV
I
in.
do. I do, and we have guest rooms and everything. Come stay. This is a really interesting conversation, though,
Hmm.
because there are a lot of people that I think maybe have not given themselves permission to make a
Mm-hmm.
change.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing your story today has really inspired me, and I know it's inspired a lot of people on the call. I've seen the comments here. We've got some fantastic comments. Somebody has a question. It's Nutella crepe. I don't know what that is, but that sounds delicious.
Yeah, I love
And
Nutella
it
crepe.
says, question, as you're pre-flighting, are you finding your goal changes or moves?
Absolutely. Because goals are something to aim towards. Like I have a system called the breakthrough system, and it's about setting up your goals and breaking it down in little steps so that you know exactly what you need to do today in order to achieve your 5-year goals. But then you don't say, okay, what I have to do today to reach my 5-year goals is what do I need to do today to do what I'm supposed to do this week so I can reach my monthly goal. And every month you say, okay, what do I need to do this month so that I can reach my 6 months goal, and then you break it down this way. And if you're interested, like I'll give you the link for a checklist, and in that you can get a very low price and do that breakthrough system on your own. But
I'll leave links in the notes
yeah,
below so that you
we'll
guys
do
can
that.
access that as well.
But the question is awesome because when you work with, for example, the breakthrough system that I've created, then every month you set your goals for the next month. What do I want to accomplish this month? But then you evaluate, okay, what have I done the last month, and how far am I to my 6 months goal, and how far am I from my yearly goal? And but then you say, I started to do that, and that's really, I thought I wanted to do that, but the more I get into it, I don't feel it. I'm not excited about that. So now what do I want to do? Like, what are the steps? Maybe your 10-year goal is really what you want to do, but the steps you've created in between might be like, no, it doesn't. Like, maybe I want to downsize. Who knows? Maybe I'll live in an RV for 2 months and I'll say, oh my God, that stinks. It's horrible. Look at, it's like there's no room. It's too hot. It's too cold, whatever. But then, okay, so now what's next? But it's always good to, once you reevaluate your goal weekly and monthly, then it allows you to readjust. It's like we're just like a GPS, and you say, let's say I want to go from Vancouver, British Columbia to North Carolina. The GPS initially is going to give me a roadmap. And then, but if I'm stick to following that roadmap, regardless of weather, regardless of accident, regardless of road repair, then I'll hit myself, on hurting all the time, like hurting on, accident and all that all the time, and I'll get upset. But if I say, hey, rerouting, okay, that's fine. Let's go this way, because my goal is to get to North Carolina. But whether I pass through Utah or whether I pass through Nevada, I don't care. I mean, it works, like it's just going to give me to a different direction. But then my goal is to get to North Carolina.
Well, and I think that's a really important key. And I want to hang on that for a second because that's really important. Life is full of reroutes. If anybody who's ever raised kids will find that they started out with a particular vision in mind, and then the kid turns 2 and they're like, whoa, this is not what I signed up for at all. And then the kid becomes like, preteen, and then they become like 9, 10 years old, and they become like, I know it all, and you can't tell me anything, and you can't make me, and all this stuff. And you're like, whoa, that is not what I thought this was all about
I thought
either.
it was going to be the nice little angel that say, yes, mommy, I got it.
Yeah, and then when they become teenagers, it's a whole different, and you're like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, right? Life is nothing but a series of reroutes. But if you have the goal in mind, and if you have the focus in mind, you have, like you said, where you are growing the skills and the muscles of serenity. I think you become a stronger person, and you become more informed, and so you are better able to handle whatever it is life throws at you. As you are rerouted, you're like, hey, wait a second, I got this. We've been here before.
And because your threshold of stress is right there, so anything that happened there, like a flat tires or whatever, it's like, hey, no problem. We got CAA or whatever that's called, a AAA in USA,
AAA.
right? Like we have AAA. Yeah, we'll call AAA. Let's sit down and relax. Let's pull out the yard chair and sit on the side and wait. It's a beautiful day out there, right?
There you go. Joanne says, any advice on how to help younger family members with grief of a lost family member who passed away?
I've experienced a lot of grief in my life, and I was just actually talking about that earlier with a grief expert, and which would be on my show in the future. But anyway, but then we talked about often, like especially for a young person that would have, you lose a child or something like that. I think that's what was the question, right? Is that what was the question? Yeah. Is you can't change it, first of all. So yes, you're going to be sad, and yes, you're going to grieve the fact that that little human being was not able to live the life that they were born to. But at the same time, you have to realize that you cannot stop living your own life because someone else's life has stopped. You have to be able to move forward with the good memories that you had with whomever, whether it's an elderly person or a young person that passed away. Go back to what was good about the relationship you had with that person. But remember that the person that is grieving, have so much more to live for. And that it's okay to move on. You're not going to disrespect whomever is left behind because you decide to move on. You're not going to dishonor them and not because you're not crying every day, you're the bad person. No, that's okay. It's okay to cry. I still cry. My mom died in 2009, and I could still now talk about her if I bring that emotion back, and I could still cry. It's okay, right? Like, but do I need to? Is that Does that bring me joy? Is that how she wants me to move on in my life, to be crying every day thinking about her and missing her? No. And that's what the people that I've gone, they don't want you sad. They want you happy. And give yourself the permission to move on and be happy for yourself and with the memories that you had with that person that passed away. And if you can't give yourself that permission yourself, I am giving you the permission to be happy moving forward, and not to grieve, and not to it's okay to grieve. I didn't mean not to grieve, but not to be sad constantly, and move forward and say, how can I, let's say, you could say also, how can I move forward by honoring them? What can I do with my own life to be happy and honor them? Do things for yourself to honor them. Like, I have a girlfriend, she lost her son years ago, but every year at his birthday, she have a little cake and she celebrates him. And I say, hey, I love you, hon. You were gone way too quick, but I'm still remembering you and I honor you. And I'm happy that, I had you in my life for that period of time.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm.
I do want to say I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm so sorry to you, Denise, for your mother, and also for
For anybody that lose
yeah,
someone,
for Joanne for bringing this comment up.
Yeah.
I'm really
Thank
sorry
you,
for your
Joanne.
loss. This was a really fun session today. I learned a lot. I think we
I
walked
believe
away
we're
with
over an
a
hour.
bunch of really amazing tips. I know our time is up, and I respect everybody's time, so I'm going to let you guys go. Denise, tell us where our listeners and our viewers can go to find you and learn more about your stuff.
Oh my goodness. Well, you have my name, Denise Belisle. So just search Denise Belisle, Serenity Expert, and you'll find a whole bunch of stuff on me. I'll put couple gift in the show notes so that you can download that. I talked about the breakthrough system. Right now, the way my funnel work, like the way I get people to sign up to that, and if you're an empty nesters, and I have a download for empty nesters so that they can rock the second half of their life. So if you download that, you have the option to get my mini course. Oh, thank you. To get my mini course about the breakthrough system and to learn. It's only $27. I mean, it's not going to break your bank. Couple of coffee, right? And fancy coffees. But then I'll take you from steps to step to create your goal, create your outrageous goal. And also we're going to put in the show note the brain spring cleaning for the brain, and that's what the initial conversation started. How to declutter your brain in order to be able to create the life that you want. So I recommend that you do both. You do the decluttering your brain, and then you do the breakthrough system, and then you're more geared towards moving forward and creating the life you deserve.
This was amazing. Thank you so much, Denise, for joining us today. And thanks everybody who tuned in today. It's really great to see you guys again. And I just really appreciate the support that you have provided us on a weekly basis, where you've joined us and we've had these really fun conversations. Because of you, we keep showing up week after week. So join us again next week, same time, same place. And again, until then, please live a life of peace and serenity.
Thank you.